Hey everybody, tonight we're going to be talking about the GAO Studio EX slider. They call it the Rich Coin EX, and it's brand new. I'm sure every reviewer probably bought one because they're only $10 to $15 to $20 at the most. Interesting piece. We're going to do the usual, compare it to other things, measure it, weigh it, take it apart, and it is not as difficult to take it apart as you might have seen. Reference to my friend Kyle, but we'll go through it here in a minute, and I'll show you it's not too bad. So please stick around, and we'll try to have some fun. Okay, so I'm going to try to talk a little louder in this video because I've heard some complaints that I talk a little too quietly, but I'm only about 6 inches away from my phone, so I don't want to overdo it. We'll see how that goes. I'll try to maintain some consistency here. What we got is a nice pivot slider that's made out of injection molded plastic. And like I said, the cheapest price I saw was a little over 10 and then 17 something. So basically you're going to pay 15 to 20 bucks for one of these. Kyle Spencer over on his channel, the oh Jesus Christ, Fidget Focused. He took one apart and had some trouble with it. But I can show you it's not too terrible. But it is injection molded, and we want to talk about that a little bit compared to a few things. I only have a few that operate like this, so those are the ones we'll be comparing it to. And I am going to add they did not come with any extra parts, but I'm going to add a spring and a ball to this and see if it makes a difference. That's what we'll do after we take it apart. So let's move on from there. Okay, let's get some things out of the way, like what came in the box. There was no box. What we have is a sort of a sealed bag and a Ziploc at the top, and then a few things on the inside. We'll get to that in a second, but I just wanted to give you a clear view of the front and back of this. In case you want to perhaps do a screen shot of that and do a translation. I haven't really done that yet, but that's how it came. We've got what appears to be a COA card of some sort, and then maybe looks like 3 or 4 round stickers. Then that is the shrink wrap that it came in, and like I said, that's it. No extra parts were in the bag, nothing else was included. Okay, so some quick comparisons. The usual suspects. We've got the Top Metal Toys DZ Top B, the Mackie CP3, and then the 3 that I thought were at least comparable to this, and this is the only mechanical comparison, would be the PDEDC Lollipop. Now this one's just a little bit more sophisticated. You can change the number of clicks that it rotates. This one you cannot, as far as I know. And of course I have the magnetic version of this, which is called the Lucky Clover. It does not look the way it should. It should look the same on the front as it does on the back, but the buyer I bought it from provided this. That's fine. I like it the way it is. That's the Clover. I scratched the heck out of it getting the epoxy out of there because it was a mess. I have to polish that up sometime. So that compared to this, again, well, if I can figure out which way to hold it. And then the Sky Tower. Who did this? GD? No, not sure. I'll put it up here. And this one's different in the fact that the little rotating part travels freely on either side. So that does make this one a little bit different. But we'll do a size comparison real quick. These two are the same size, so if you happen, not too many people I've seen have had a PDEDC Lollipop, but if you happen to have one, here's what they look side by side. And if you happen to have a Sky Tower by GTEDC, I bet that's who it is. Alrighty. Now, get the main star back into the picture. Alright, let's get the weights and measurements out. There are no magnets in this little thing, so we can just lay it on there. 12.5, say 13 grams. And I'm not going to compare that to anything. Weight-wise, measurement-wise, let's take a look at that. Let's see if this thing's good. 1, 2, 3. I always check it 3 times. Make sure it's zeroed out. Not that we need that kind of accuracy here, but a little over 47 millimeters tall. A little over 26 millimeters thick. When it is extended, we are at about 67, 67, 68, I'm sorry. Yeah, I like it. I like it. Okay, so let's start to take this puppy apart. I have my trusty Swiss Army knife, and let's look at it real quick here. There's 2 sides, and one side has this edge to it, and the 4 tabs, and that's where I figured that Kyle was working with, but he was mostly using his fingers to push this out and pry everything apart. What I recommend is a blade like this, as opposed to, like, if you don't have anything else, just use what you have. But an X-Acto knife or a utility knife, they're kind of sharp, and they're kind of they get thick, fairly thick, fast. And this is nice and thin the whole way through, so it works really well at not pushing things apart too much. But what you do is use the edge of the knife to find that little seam, and then just get ahead. Here's one of the latches. What would you call that? Tabs. And I'm just getting in front of it, and I'm going to gently push my blade down in there. Now it's down in there, and I'm going to turn the blade this way. So I've popped it. No, I missed out. I missed it. I have to try it again. There you go. That one's out. This one's still in. So I'm just going to spin it around, do the same sort of thing, put the blade in front of where this little tab is, gently push it in there, and then pry just a little bit, and all of a sudden the top comes right off. Lifts right off. There's just 4 little tabs, and they're located here, 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 and here. These are more like the tab receptacles. The tabs, well, they're hard to see. There are 4 little tabs located here, 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 and here. And then you have your detents, and that's the whole thing. The loose ball comes out of there. Now there's a place here to put, there's where the spring of the ball was initially. That's how this came to me. Magnetic, I guess. There's another place for a spring and a ball here. When we're done, we're gonna add another spring and ball here and balance this thing out. So the next step is to take out that Phillips head screw. Let me just get things arranged. It's got fuzzy. Some of this stuff fell on the floor, and I got on the floor to find it, and I found a ball I wasn't looking for and a spring I wasn't looking for. So that's getting to be pretty common. Yeah, so I found a Phillips number 2. Seems to fit the best, and whatever you get, just try to find something that doesn't slop around in there, especially because this one's tight. I don't know if they used any kind of adhesive with it, but I managed to heat mine up over the space heater just a little bit to try and soften things up. And then I turned it very slowly and managed to get it to come loose without doing any damage. So you can just unscrew this without any fears of anything happening, and then just sort of lift this part off, and basically that's the whole assembly right there. Let's just line all this up. We got our spring and ball up here. So let's talk about each part. I've shown you this up close. This is just the piece that held it. This would be the base, or the bottom piece, I would call it. And you have your detents here. And then this is just a, there's a separate piece glued in here, probably glued in here, because I don't see any tabs or anything. But I think it's basically hollow on the inside right there. And I think I know one of the reasons they didn't just make that solid plastic is because it would probably be too thick. They like to make things like this with a uniform thickness. And when you get a thick plastic like that in one spot, then when it cools, it tends to get sink marks in it and stuff. And you should see that the funny thing about this one is the warnings. I don't know which seller had the warnings up, but they had a lot of problems molding these, and there's a lot of mold artifacts. Like right here, sorry, it's going to be hard to see probably, but that's a little bit of a mold burn, and it's happening right where one of the ejector pins might have been on the inside. You can see these 6 marks on here. Those are natural, those are ejector pins. When this was in the mold, it was like this, and when it came out, it stayed on this side until those pins came from behind and pushed it out. Mold making is incredibly complicated stuff. Interesting to look into if you're ever looking for something on YouTube. All right, let's go from here and put everything back together again. So the part I didn't show you probably close enough was this. This is what I'd call the carriage, the part that moves back and forth. This is the side. It has 4 holes for 4 springs and balls for this round detent side. So you could put 4 springs and 4 balls there. It only came with 2. We're going to put a spring and a ball here and a spring and a ball here there and leave it the way it is. I like the rotation that it has. Plus, I don't want to go looking for spare parts right now. I had to dig for the extra ball and spring that I needed. But we'll start with putting that back together. Like I said, they're going to be diagonally placed across from each other. That's the way it came to me. And am I remembering to talk loudly enough? Probably not. So you'll have to turn your volume up a little bit, maybe. Anyhow, that needs to go. I want to take this and put it on top of there like that, and just sort of line up this hub with that hole, and then hold everything together, flip it over. Now I can take and put the screw back in. This one's actually a little bit tight going back into, so you want to make sure you're not accidentally cross-threading it. And if you do it too far, I imagine it would get too tight. But if you don't do this far enough, if it doesn't go in far enough, I guess you could always do that. Check how much. See that part we just put in, it's actually moving in and out a little bit. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit tighter. Whoops. Okay, I'm going to bring it in a little bit tighter. I'm going to leave it at, that's it. I'm going to leave it at that. Twist it, make sure everything works. And then we can take and put we want to put a ball and a spring in both sides. Remember, it only came with one spring and 1 ball. But I rummaged around and I found a couple others. So, grab this. You know, I call these black ceramic and the white ones white ceramic. Like this one. We don't need it, but anyhow, it's just easier to say that. I mean, I know that it's silicon nitride and that's zirconium oxide, but they're both ceramics, so it's just easier to say black ceramic and white ceramic. Let's get one of these here springs out. Give it a feel. It feels like the other ones do. It's probably, you know, most of the time we're working with 3mm balls, and the springs are almost always 5mm long, 3mm in diameter, and if you measure the wire thickness, that's how you can tell how springy they are. But in it, you know, you can just compare them when you don't have other means. And let's try this thing with 2 balls. Now this I forgot to put on. We might knock the ball. You know, I'm just going to knock the balls off right away. So this goes back on. And you'll realize right away it doesn't go on this way. It goes on this way. What I'm going to do is flex these sides out a little bit. It's just the easiest way to get this back together again. Like that. Simple as that. Pops right back on. So once we put the balls in, now that we're done jostling everything around, this just snaps right back on top. So line everything up nice. Make sure both sides are down. They're both down. And we'll see what we got. Now the part that should have changed is this, not the rotation. We didn't do anything to modify the rotation. We just added a spring, and it definitely feels a lot stiffer now than it did before. So I think it's a little loud too. I think what I'm definitely going to do with this one is my next move is going to be to take out these black ceramic balls and put in some POM, synthetic plastic balls, because they'll make it nice and soft and quiet. The springs feel like they're pretty low gauge. I'll bet they're 0.25 or 0.3 at the most. So that's it. Nice little piece, 10 bucks. This you can give to a kid and you won't have to worry about it if they lose it. Oops. Like I said, there's a lanyard hole, but you really don't. I don't think we could discuss that too much, but 3mm is about what that is, and you're not going to fit paracord through there. That's more of a square hole. That doesn't work out too well either, but it doesn't need a lanyard. You could put one on there for a little kid, I guess. Yeah, not bad, not bad. GAO Studio. That's it. That's all I have for this broadcast. If you have any questions, please put them in the comments, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thanks for watching. Bye.